Okay, before we start today, we're going to just run through the consent for recording. So taking part is voluntary. You can leave at any time without giving a reason. Your personal details will not be shared outside of this group, and we won't mention any names unless you ask us to. Recordings may be used on social media and our website.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Suffolk People First. Anybody from Ipswich?
Anybody from Bury St Edmunds?
Is anybody from Stowmarket?
Anybody from Lowestoft?
Anybody from Felixstowe?
Anyone from Sudbury?
Anybody from Newmarket?
Anybody from Haverhill?
Anybody from Suffolk County Council?
Is anybody from Suffolk Police?
Anybody from NHS?
You can introduce yourself in the chat box below if you'd like to. So now we're going to look at the tips for a successful online meeting using Zoom. Number 1, please mute yourself when it's somebody else's turn to speak. There is the mute button to the left there with the blue arrow pointing at it. Number 2, please try not to interrupt guest speakers or people when they are talking. If you have a question or a comment, type it into the chat box. There it is. It's right in the middle. It's the little speech bubble and it says chat and there's a blue arrow pointing to it. When we have time for questions and discussion, use the raise hand button to show you want to speak. There it is, right at the end to the right there. And it's the blue button that says reactions with a little face on. Please try not to have any background noise like televisions or mobile phones. Please be kind, respectful and have fun. This is quite an important one. Number 7, if at any point you need a comfort break, please have one. Now onto the agenda. First thing on our agenda is a film that everybody's been making. We've all been filming you over the last sort of month and a half. And the film's called How We Doing, What's Next and What Do We Need? And it's a film by you. Next we have Jez Taylor from Adult Community Services to talk about what he and his team have been up to in the last 12 months. And then on the agenda next we have Katie Sargeant from the NHS who's going to be talking about a campaign called How Do We Heal that she'll tell you about. And then very important, we need a 10-minute break, so we've got a comfort break coming up after those guys, so we can get a cup of tea and eat and whatever else we need. After the break on the agenda we have Dave Smithson from Anxiety UK to talk about what he does and what his organisation do. And then we have a video that Zeb has been involved in making. And it's an interview with the Director of Adult Community Services, Georgia Chimbani. So, on with the next thing. We have a video, that as I said, that you've all been making called How Are We Doing, What's Next, and What Do We Need? A film by you. Please, can you tell me your name and how are you?
Hello, my name is Mark. Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. We're getting there.
My name is Graham Mann. I'm fine, thank you. I'm very good.
I'm Stephen Largent. Fair, really, not too bad.
My name is Kate Chait. I'm really good today, actually. Thank you.
Pam. I'm okay. A little bit better than normally am.
Abigail Oliver Wilson. I am well, thank you.
My name is Gemma. I am good today.
Same with this year being hard, but it's working better for everyone.
Actually, a bit stressful in lockdown.
My name is Dale Hill. Not too bad, thanks, a bit tired.
Kenneth Hall. Not too bad.
Hi, I'm David. I'm very good today.
My name is Ashley Pauline Heaven Lennon. I'm good, thank you, except for I'm just missing my gran as she passed away on the 10th of February.
Hi, I'm Harriet Lucas. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Ben Hart. Good.
My name is Josh Deer. Deer spelled D-E-A-R. I'm very fine, thank you. Very fine.
Dinner Hardy. I'm okay, I'm good today.
My name's Jason. Fine.
Leanne Anchors. I'm fine.
My name is Linda Hogarth. I'm very well, thank you.
Owen. Fine. Absolutely fine.
Scott Johnson. Good, really good actually.
Tina Willingham. I'm okay, thank you.
My name's Toby. Leroy. Tired?
Kelly Warman. I'm fine, thanks, Chewy. Enjoying the sunshine.
Have you learned anything new over the last year?
I've learned the importance of having good people around you. Generally, the support of people, because I think that's been something that's been a massive thing.
I have had, in the last year, a better perspective on what I enjoy, what I need, and what I want for my future, and what I think I should focus on and what I'm good at.
Having the Zoom meetings and also becoming a peer educator for Race Anglia.
Sort of not taken too much for granted, I think, more than anything. It's been very testing time for everyone. I think we've all had to adapt to this new normal.
What have you enjoyed about lockdown?
Just really sort of thinking about things, like thinking about life in general, and thinking about how life is going to be different.
That moving forward, if you want to go to places, again, go to places, you should. But if you don't want to, or you can't get there, or you can't afford to, then you should be here on your own, if you can.
Going for walks every day.
I'd say doing the art courses, preparing food with my dad.
What have you not enjoyed about lockdown?
Being stuck at home, not seeing family and friends.
Not seeing family really, to be honest. Not seeing Dad, to be honest with you, because it was just really upsetting. I couldn't chat to him, and just like father and son do.
Do you have any worries or concerns about what's going to happen next?
I do. I worry that people won't remember what they've learnt in lockdown. I think it's going to be really important that we carry what we've learnt about ourselves forward. And for the people like my son who need support, I really worry that the support needs that have become clear aren't heard, and that he won't get the support that he needs.
It's going to be very hard for us to get back to whatever is perceived as normal, because we're anxious about going out. We've lost lots of confidence that we used to have. Some people are saying to me that really they're not much bothered. They don't realise if they don't go out again as much as they ever used to.
Is there anything that you'd like to now change in your life?
Focus on me and my partner, on getting bigger on YouTube, go to uni, actually succeed in getting a job rather than get turned down when I do apply for a job.
We do need some form of new structure in life. We're in 2021. I think it's about moving on. Technology's moved on. The accessibility stuff has moved on. And people are still not doing it yet. My sister Susan said to me the other day, you know, in her generation, she wants to see, you know, accessibility to be the tool. That's what I want every day.
Not being so anxious, and obviously I want to try and return to a form of normality, get myself more busy working, doing videos and seeing my friends, because I miss that socialisation. It's not being social that I found really hard.
Thank you to all the people who have given their time to make these videos, which will be coming to you in full on the Ace Anglia website soon. Thank you very much. Like that person said at the end. Thanks for everybody's contribution. The idea for the starting video came out of our advisory group. So it was like, what do we want to think about? What is important to us at the moment? So back in February, I think, March, February, Kate, I think it was around that time that we started talking about what we want to do for this meeting. And they were the things that were coming out of the advisory group, was our worries, our concerns, things that we want to do next. So we put that together. And you know, looking back at it, it's like, wow, there's some really powerful things there. So any, you know, if any of that's inspired you to write any comments in the box about how you're feeling and things that you want to achieve, do it. And we want to see more of that. So it's really good. So that was just the start of today. So it's going to be about, you know, what do we want? What's next? What have we learned, kind of thing. So we're going to move on. David, tell me when you're ready. We're going to move on to our first guest speaker, which is Jez, in a second. So yes, so that was what the film was about. Hope it inspires you. As it will be out there online. You know, different versions of it. So Jez, I'm going to introduce yourself now.
Hi there. Thanks, Chewy. My name's Jez Taylor. I'm the professional advisor in the Learning Disability and Autism service. I've been a social worker and worked for Suffolk County Council for 19 years this August. Boy, does time fly. Thanks. So COVID was a leveler, and suddenly all our lives were turned upside down, and it affected everyone from Boris to Beyonce. We all had to live our lives very differently. Amazon's and Tesco's profits soared, and while some businesses never closed, other businesses had to close and sadly may never reopen. It was a mixed picture, so too in the care sector, with daytime opportunity providers affected in many different ways. Despite the pandemic affecting everyone, the impact on individuals and people's lives day to day varied. Some businesses, such as a few care farms, they never closed, and at the height of the pandemic, Suffolk County Council commissioned We're Doing Business with 98 different daytime opportunities providers, and that impacted on over 1,340 different people. Some larger buildings where care and support is delivered, they were able to make plans for reopening, as social distancing would be able to be that much easier. For smaller workshops, this would pose more of a risk, with some of these being the last to reopen, if at all, sadly, for some of them. Many people that we worked with also attended multiple daytime opportunity settings. Suffolk County Council, led by our Service Development and Contracts team, worked really closely every day with providers to limit risks where a customer wanted to attend more than one service and more than one setting. The situation on the ground was changing every day, and our social work teams worked tirelessly and were dependent on the excellent work and good conversations that our Service Development and Contracts team were having daily with different businesses and providers on the ground. The expectation was and is that all providers were doing their best and had the customer's best interest at the centre of any decisions that were made. For the teams at Suffolk County Council, it soon became apparent that there were two types of work that emerged for day activities. There was reactive, where the provider reopened without giving Suffolk County Council much notice, but contacted families and customers direct. And there was planned, where the provider wanted to reopen and worked with Suffolk County Council beforehand. The social work teams had to triage, risk assess basically the impact on people's lives and any impact on people's home situation, paying close attention to any family carers. We ended up RAG rating these. So for some, the change was critical, red. For other, the changes presented difficulties, but these were more manageable, amber. Whilst for some, the changes were not a problem and presented positive opportunities to do things differently. And that was green for those people. The COVID pandemic reminded us of the importance of good conversations. That's at the heart of the model of the way that the social work teams work with.
Right then, all good? Yeah.
The social work teams work with a practice model called Signs of Safety, and it tries to place the person at the center of the conversation. It's built around good working relationships, importantly, doing with and not doing to. It aims to build on strengths and looks at what people can do so they can develop their own solutions. We looked at people's situations and their lives and were asking what's been working well for them during lockdown, what are the worries, what they wanted to continue with, and what needed to happen next. We quickly learned that many people were and are flexible and can adapt to change, and some people didn't mind doing things differently as new opportunities presented themselves. Speaking personally, I never stopped working. I did things differently. The way that I did my job changed massively. I stopped doing some of the things that made my job more difficult. I didn't miss spending hours driving around Suffolk most of the time between Leiston, Ipswich, Bury and Beccles. I did miss, however, real people, work colleagues and friends. A chat in person over coffee had been replaced by a headset and Microsoft Teams every hour of every day, day in, day out. And I started to feel a sense of loss. And I did a bit of reading on the internet, and I read an article that described this sense of loss in the pandemic as the same sense of loss as that of grief. This wasn't a loss of a loved one or any one thing in particular or a close friend. It was the loss of the everyday and the familiar. And the term that I found that this was called normalcy. It was a loss of the normal things that I was used to doing day in, day out, as these were drastically altered. I had to find a new way of behaving to ensure that I could get the best out of my current situation, which for me meant getting used to doing things very differently. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thanks. So building on this need to do things differently, Suffolk County Council obtained some care phones called Alcove. These are tablet computers that people can use to make and receive video calls, but they also have a SIM card so you can make calls straight away without needing to access the internet. Suffolk County Council distributed 366 of these to people that access daytime opportunities, distributing them to individuals and providers. Crucially, to people that did not have access to a multimedia smartphone or appropriate technology. They support people who want to return to day activities and those who weren't, and opened up different ways to have that support, meeting needs around live streaming, social network, and still being able to be part of a person's week. It enabled messaging, supported carers, was a good way to share information about COVID and share tips about staying safe and keeping well. And it offered a virtual support mechanism from further afield. We were all learning new ways of working and a lot about the importance of effective digital communication. We were told that people would rather have a good quality virtual conversation than no conversation at all. So within the social work teams, we looked at our current systems. The requirement for an annual review undertaken by social care, we know that that's not always achieved, and some people have been waiting a long time for their review. People and families are also not always clear regarding what to expect from a review. People and their families aren't always clear regarding what the Care Act means in practice, and the customer journey, what happens, how and why. We sense that there was a shared appetite for progress and a different approach. This is the screenshot from the work that I had the pleasure to undertake with Ace, Andrea, Chewy, Annette and David, and also Max from Thinklusive. I know that they did a lot of work with some of you in the call around co-producing some of the resources, which we'll see in a minute. Thank you. So where appropriate, we know that reviews should be both proportionate and person-centered. And for some people, where people's support needs are well understood and stable, these reviews can easily be more flexible. We came up with a project called Doing Reviews Differently, and that was our response, and try to give people the opportunity to choose from face-to-face, telephone, online, Teams, Skype, WhatsApp, or a mixture. We also needed to provide better information for people to understand what a social care review is and isn't. Best practice tips around an online review. We wanted to provide information about the Care Act, the customer journey, and have a central place for people to access information about reviews. We also had to develop an end-to-end process for our social work teams. You can find the resources on the Suffolk Ordinary Lives website on the tab Social Care Reviews. They've done a great job. So these are just a screenshot of some of the resources that you can see there. So each individual resource is quite a few pages. Top tips for your online review, for instance, covers things to make sure that an online review or a virtual review is as positive an experience as it can be, and talks about preparation and privacy, equipment, any communication needs, sitting comfortably, etc. So for some of those 1,342 people that we mentioned earlier, and many others, we've learned that life may never be quite the same again, either because they chose to live a different life to the one they did before COVID, or because they had to. We've seen some of the remarkable ways people have responded to change during the pandemic. So if I hear people concerned about things going back to the way that they were, or worried that we might somehow lose the power behind the positive stories and opportunities shown and demonstrated during the pandemic. And I've heard people say, so what is Suffolk County Council going to do about this? Personally, I'm not worried, because I know that the one thing that's central to a good social work conversation is that we carry on listening and we continue developing good working relationships built on doing with, not doing to people. This remains at the heart of what our social work teams do, listening and working with people to ensure, with the right support at the right time from the right people, people can live a good life as part of their community. Thank you.
There's a question about why people didn't get the right support at the time during the lockdown. In other words, people had support, but that changed, and then they didn't have the right support as a consequence. I don't know whether you want to answer that, Jez, or I just carry on and say what other comments there is.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it's difficult to generalize. I mean, as you know, there's obviously, I think as I try to highlight, you know, there was over at least 1,300 people affected. And I think all of us were trying to respond regularly to the changes day to day on the ground. And I'm sure that for some people, it was far less of a positive experience than others. But
has there been anything learned from that, Jez? Would anything be done differently next time? So the people that had support that were told we can't come, we're isolating, we haven't got the support workers, they're shielding, and then the person didn't get any support. Is there any lessons that have been learned from that, or anything that you've shared with the providers? Should something like that happen again?
I think it's continuously being worked on by individual practitioners that are trying to contact customers and their families daily. Obviously, individual circumstances are, you know, are fairly difficult to unpick here and there. But
okay,
I think all I would advocate is just try to maintain a positive dialogue with whomever it is in Suffolk County Council that's supporting you.
Yeah, and Andrea's made a good comment in the chat, said we need to use the skills that we've learned, or if we don't, we might lose them skills. So keep using the technology that we've learned to use and how to use it, and yeah, and then we won't lose that skill. And someone else, I think it's Mark, has put to ask people what they need, what they would like, because they may not want to go back to their daycare setting, so their building-based setting. They might want to think about other things to do, new things.
That's very much at the heart of what we do, Mark, in terms of we don't assume that we have the answers. We try to ask the person what's worked well for them. And obviously, if they've experienced something positive through change, then we would most definitely want to build on that.
Mark wants to say an example. What's that, Mark?
Yeah, that so previously when we were talking about social tech, I know it's independent and stuff, but I think it does, whether it's independent or not, it actually affected a lot of people. I think even when you mentioned the figures there, it still affected more than that. So, for example, where I'm with at the moment, I'm not with anywhere with learning disability services at the moment. I've been switched quite a lot. Stenton Change, for example, had contacted me. So last year they said, right, okay, we'll support you, not a problem. Then they said they won't. Then they said they will, but they will go outside. And then after that, that was it. And I think the golden rule is this, and I've heard this throughout the whole year. If nothing has changed within the year, all right, then action needs to be taken seriously to people. Because if I think, even though we do now know that the virus is happening, and stuff like this, and especially during this time, but it's nothing to change within a year, 6 months to a year, maybe more, no more than that. I think things will have to think around people. It seems to be more around system than people at the moment, and don't pick that one. Oh, pick this one because they're more vulnerable than that one. No, with whatever disabilities we have.
But that's a very good, valuable point. Thank you, Mark. I've just read another chat, and it says, "What is the average wait time for a review?" And that's from Roger.
What's the point?
I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry. There's approximately 3,000 people that Suffolk County Council work with across Suffolk, and obviously each team has a different geographical area, and each team has different staffing levels and different staffing ratios. So there isn't an easy answer to that, and I don't know if we have a general, this is the average wait time. Because it very much also depends on people's circumstances. So I don't have that data to hand, I'm sorry.
Can we go to you, Andrea, and then anybody else, could you put stuff in the chat so we can get those to either Jez, or we can look at where the questions are and we can disseminate those out to the right places.
Yeah, I'm just kind of pointing out that, we run advocacy services, and it's been constant for the whole of the year, but we're just starting to see, as lockdown's unfolding now, the waiting list has just doubled this week overnight. And so I think there will be a lot coming in the next few months for providers, for social workers, for all of us. We've all worked really hard during lockdown, but I think we're just starting the next bit now, and we'll have to be, we'll all have to work together really, really closely to get the things that people are asking for, and just listen to them, like Jez said before. But we're at ACE, we're talking to providers, we're talking to lots of people, and we're also talking to the social teams, so that your voices are getting to as many places as we can. But I think as we're all kind of waking up again and being brave and going out there, the next 6 months will be a completely different to the last time. So I think if everybody can, work together, we'll get there faster wherever there is.
So I think if people start putting some questions in the box, and the people who are here, if they are able to answer them, reply. Otherwise, we'll take those questions and we'll look at them and we'll get back to people, or send them to the right people. Okay. So is that okay? So we're going to go on to the next. Thank you, Jez. We're going to go on to the next person who's speaking, which is Katie. Katie's got a presentation, so we can all see each other. And Katie's is more about shouting out questions, not shouting, asking questions. So Katie, I'm going to pass over to you. Yeah. Okay.
Hello everyone. Hi. It's lovely to see you all. Thanks for having me back. So I'm not really here as a guest speaker. I'm really here to listen to you. And this whole session, I was so excited when I saw the invitation come out a few weeks ago, because I'm part of a piece of work which is happening across Norfolk, across Northeast Essex and Suffolk, to go out and listen to as many people in our population, to find out from you what you feel the impact has been on you in the last 12 months. So the videos that Chewy played at the beginning of this session, I will be very interested to see those full. And what I will be doing is gathering all of the feedback that I hear and taking that into your local alliances, which are groups of organisations that plan and deliver health services in your local area. So we work with the health service, we work with social care, and we work with voluntary sector organisations, and we work with mental health service providers. So what I'm trying to do during the month of May is to get a snapshot of what people feel are their top 3 issues that I need to be feeding back to those influential system leaders, as we would refer to them, so that your voice is heard. We will then, over the coming 12 months, be making sure that we plan our public engagement activities around those points that you have raised. On the 16th of June, I will be publishing the report of everything that we've heard, and we will share that with ACE, and we will come back and present that to you. We've engaged with people in lots of different ways over the last month. We've had an online survey which we have sent out to people who completed the vaccination experience survey, which I know some of you did. And we sent it out to the people that said that they wanted to be involved in future conversations. So we've had around 300 responses to the survey. I've been going out speaking to groups like this, speaking to individuals, going and talking to members of the workforce. And we've had over 40 community conversations, and I've spoken to literally hundreds of people. Also, we have held some open forum sessions, which I know that some of you who are in this meeting have attended some of those open forum sessions. But rather than trying to get everyone to come to things that we organise, I'm really keen that we go out to things that are organised by other people, so that people feel supported and comfortable to talk to me about anything that you feel I need to understand about your experience in the last 12 months. So that's really where I'm going to stop talking. You can feel free to use the chat. You can shout out to me. I'll also put my email in the chat, so you can contact me directly if there's something that you would like to share or talk to me and you don't feel comfortable about doing that in a public forum like this. Although much of what you're discussing today is really relevant to me anyway, so I'm very happy just to be here to observe and listen and feedback in the 16th of June.
Has anybody got anything that they want to raise around sort of the last 12 months? Hands up there.
Graham and Gilbert. Graham and Owen have got their hands
up.
Okay,
Graham first then, yeah. Graham?
Hello?
Hello, all right.
Hi, Graham.
May I ask something to can I ask something to Bowie, please?
To Boo, okay. Yeah.
He like my pictures. I mean, asking where you wanted my pictures.
Graham, can we take this conversation outside of this meeting, and I will speak to you about your pictures, I promise.
Well, there's something over the last 12 months that we've discovered is Graham's amazing talent in art, which he's been promoting all over the place. We've got on the ACE website, and Boo's looking into this stuff. So, yeah, amazing.
Well, I definitely would love to see if anyone else has discovered a hidden artistic talent as well over the last year. That's all really important stuff. So I'd really love to see that too, please.
Yeah. Let's go. Andrea.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Katie, about the mental health side of things. My partner especially has suffered greatly throughout lockdown. Last year she had about, we call them blips, but she had about 5 hospital visits in the space of 6 weeks because of lockdown, because she couldn't go out, she couldn't do anything. And the support that she was meant to be getting, people weren't ringing her, or they weren't doing enough to help her. And it just felt like, whenever you did ask for help, they were like, well, we can't come out because of COVID and all this kind of stuff. But her case was so, the fact that she was in hospital 5 times in 6 weeks, or I think it was 4 weeks, spoke volumes to me, when she kind of like wasn't sort of listened to, or was just left to her own devices, which is very dangerous to someone who suffers extreme mental health. I actually had to step up to become more like a carer to her. I was up there every week, more sometimes 3 times a week. I have supported mental health myself, and because there wasn't the support, apart from her support workers who weren't doing enough at the time, she's got a different load now, which are a lot better. But a lot of it was on my shoulders, and I don't feel that, you know, that was very fair on me or Leanne, because I had to kind of step into a role which I'm not trained for, and I'm not, you know, mentally equipped for. So I'm sure there are a load of other people who have had to do that. If we, God forbid, there is another lockdown, what support could be given to those people who have to step into those caring roles for their people who need them, at the cost of their own health as well? So if their own health is compromised, like my health was suffered, you know, what happens to me? Do I, you know, because I have to support someone because they can't, there's no one else to support them. But who then, apart from my family, who I couldn't see, who then supports me? I have my own support workers, but if I don't see them every day and then I suffer, how does that help? What is there to help me? What can be done to help me? Because all I'm hearing is, well, you know, there's not enough funding for mental health. That's all rubbish to me. And I hear the same thing all the time, and I get sick of it.
Sorry, I mean, you keep dotting around my screen, so I'm trying to maintain eye contact with you, and you're moving, so sorry. First of all, thank you for sharing that with us, and I'm sorry to hear about that experience that both you and your partner had. I have to tell you that what you've just described to me is something I've heard a lot in the last month. And a colleague called Kirsten Alderson, who works for Suffolk Family Carers, has explained a number of presentations I've seen recently about the massive increase that Suffolk Family Carers saw in people accessing their support. Because just as you've described, as the statutory services pulled away from people because of COVID, it meant that family members were having to step up into roles that they were, as you have said, not prepared for and were not supported, and at the same time were managing their own emotional well-being and their own challenges around the experience that we were having. So I think what we can do is to link you in with places where you can get support. And that's something we can do outside of the meeting, and I'll pop some links in the chat. But also, I want to assure you that part of the work going forward from these conversations that we're having is to really look at how we can support carers, because our unpaid carers, informal carers, family carers have really borne a huge brunt in the last 12 months. And without people like you, there would be many other people who are having a much worse experience than they did. So thank you for what you did, and we'll try to link you in with organisations that can support you. And also, I'd really love to keep in touch with you, to keep you connected in any future conversations we have about the impact on carers, if you'd be happy.
I think what it was that my partner didn't want me to, she wanted me to be her partner, not her carer and her partner. And I had support workers myself, but they couldn't come in because I had her down, I had Leanne or my partner down at mine to make sure she was okay. I was also going out, and I was told by other people, you shouldn't be going out, you know, you're not meant to go out. And I said, well, there's no one else who can help her. You know, she can't see her family. you know, what can you do in that situation? And then it also meant that my support suffered, where I couldn't have my carers, and luckily it was during the summertime, so we were sitting outside, but they couldn't come in because I had her down at mine, and I wasn't really allowed to, and that impacted on my support, and then, you know, it just got to the point where it was just like, the way I got through lockdown, through the really bad period, was helping her. She helped me, helping her helped me, because helping her helped her, but that also, me helping her and seeing her coping also helped me. But when I lost that ability, when we broke up for a period, I then suffered for all that time that I had helped. And then it then was like, the next time a lockdown happened, it was like I was more prepared for it, so it didn't affect me as much. But it was just the fact that there were some services that were like, well, we can't come out and help because of COVID. And then after the first lockdown and then the second lockdown, the same excuse was still happening.
Andrea and then Susan, and then we have to move on to our break, okay? So Andrea and then Susan. Steve, if you put a question in the chat, that'd be good, all right?
Yeah, okay, virtually the same as what Owen said, really. You know, cut a long story.
You put it in the chat, all right? Thank you, Andrea.
Susan can go first. I can put mine in the chat.
Okay, Susan. I'll try to go for people that always speak as well, Steve. Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. I got a lot of support because the room might lead people first. You're doing a lot of activities going on every day. We do like a 10-minute workout in the morning at 11:15, and also sometimes we do some chats, but we don't do that all the time. So we do a bit of all sorts, really.
And is that all online, Susan? You've been doing that online,
yeah.
And how has that been for you?
It's been brilliant. It's been great. And also we do healthy living as well.
You do what, sorry?
We do healthy living. Healthy living is about you can eat sensibility, and also we have quizzes on that as well, and all that sort of stuff. And also we do like moves and groovers.
So, and has being able to connect with people online, is that something that you would like to continue to do in the future?
Well, yeah, we have gone back one day a week now, so
good.
We're doing it very gently, you see, how we do it. I do a lot of creative. I like making things with my hands. I do like a lot of needlework. That's one thing I have learned through lockdown. I'm one of those people that I have too many projects running up time. So
I know the feeling.
And also that that's one thing I have learned, that been doing one thing and before I finish one, I'm going to another. So that's what I've been learning, how to do that.
Well, I'm really excited because I'm sure that this isn't something that ACE will let slip through its fingers, this sort of surge in creativity amongst people. I've just seen that Andrea has said that you're going to be doing a kind of a gallery, which I'd love to see. So that's really lovely. Sadly, I wouldn't have anything to contribute to such a project.
Yeah.
Before we have a break, let's say a positive thing about your partner. She went on Radio Suffolk, didn't she, last week? Yeah?
Yeah, she did absolutely fantastically.
Yeah, so she was amazing. She went on Radio Suffolk on the Belonging Show, and she talked really confidently about it.
And it's like very fiddly. It's like little beads that you stick on sticky paper. Takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and she did an eye that's on the ACE gallery. If Tree can link it, if he wants to, and it took her about a month to do that, and she's working on some others as well, and she's doing really well. And that's one thing that has helped a little bit for her during lockdown, because it kind of takes her mind off it. And I use my YouTube for exactly the same reason. So that has helped her. But you know, if she hadn't had that, I think probably it would have been worse. But you know, luckily she did have, you know, an escape. But you know, sometimes it doesn't always help.
Brilliant. Thank you, Owen. Abby just put that in the chat, the link to the gallery. And Katie, you're going to put your details in there. What we're going to do now, though, we're going to take a break, because we felt that we've been on other meetings from all over the UK, and the break seems a good thing. So a 10-minute break, switch your mics off, your cameras off, go and grab yourself a drink, and we'll come back at 11:43, and we'll have Dave from Anxiety UK.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to join you this morning. I've been fascinated listening to the previous speakers and the chat and hearing about what you've been doing, and particularly interested in the art that you've been using, the art gallery, because we're about to launch an art project ourselves early next month. So we know art can be a real good way of helping you to relax and manage your anxiety, a good way of mindfulness activity, which was really good, very therapeutic for us. So very interested to hear that. I'm going to talk to you today and for about 15-20 minutes, hopefully no much longer, about what Anxiety UK do very briefly, and then give you some tips and some advice about how to cope coming out of lockdown, because we're starting to get to this place, aren't we, where things are returning to normal. I actually went to a pub and had a meal inside on Tuesday night. I mean, that's the first time I've done that for about 6 months, and that was fantastic. So, but as we return to normal, we start going back to work. I mean, I'm still working from home. I've been working from home since the 17th of March last year. You know, we some of us will be going back to work. Some of us will be going back to normal activities. Some of us will be looking forward maybe to going to the cinema, or going back to watching the football, or we might be looking forward to going back to the theatre or whatever. But for some of us, those challenges of going back and returning to normal are going to actually cause some anxieties. We know it's been a very topical issue for the last 2 or 3 weeks for us as the restrictions are lifted. So just briefly, Anxiety UK, with the UK's leading user-led anxiety charity we've been around since 1970. We were formed by a couple called Catherine and Harold Fisher, and we provide support, information, and advice to people on all sorts of aspects of anxiety disorder, stress, and anxiety-based depression. We have a national helpline, which we'll give you the details for at the end. If you want to call us at any time, we're available Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 5:30. We have a live chat service. We have an email and text support service as well. So you can email us or text us anytime, day or night, with a query or a question, and we will respond to that usually within 1 working day. And we get a lot of people contacting us. Prior to the pandemic, we had about 20,000 support interactions each year. We've seen a huge increase in that, obviously, as you would expect during the last 15 months with the COVID-19 pandemic. Our phone lines were open. We extended our opening until 10 o'clock at night during the first lockdown, and we were open at weekends. So lots of people were feeling very anxious. We are seeing the levels of anxiety returning to some degree of normality pre-pandemic levels. We're not quite there yet. We've still got higher levels of anxiety than we would see in usual times. We're very active on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and our website always gets millions of visitors every year from all over the world, not just in the UK. But most importantly, I think one of the things that we do one of the things we do best is that we have our own talking therapy services. We have access to over 400 Anxiety UK approved therapists around the country who offer either cognitive behavioural therapy, compassion focused therapy, person-centred counselling, or clinical hypnotherapy. And also we work with some traditional acupuncturists as well. Some people find acupuncture as an alternative choice of treatment can help them. So we're doing lots of actual helping people get access to services. We're not just about giving advice and information, but we actually deliver services of our own. So very briefly, I'm going to look in the next few minutes at what is anxiety. Why would you feel anxious at any particular time? We'll talk about some self-care tools and some tips and some managing expectations as well, trying to help you manage your expectations and the expectations of those around you in the next few weeks and months. And very briefly, look at what professional help's available. I'm going to stop sharing very briefly and then reshare again, because I want to make sure I've ticked in there. So I need to tick the share the sound, because I've got a short video to show in a second. I'll make sure you hear the sound, which I've just done. Tick that box now. So when we get there, we should be okay. So anxiety, what is anxiety? What do we think anxiety? Well, our definition of anxiety, it's that feeling of unease or fear that we get when we're faced with threatening or difficult situations. It's normal, and sometimes it's a helpful emotion to experience. So that feeling of fear and danger can actually protect us. You may have heard about the fight or flight response. That goes back to, when we were prehistoric days, when we were cavemen and we, faced by a danger. Did we run away, or do we stand there and fight it? And it's that natural response to danger that we experience. It's a helpful emotion at times, as I say. I mean, a more modern day example I often use is, you think about crossing a road. If you go up to a busy main road, you don't just walk out into the main road, do you? You hear the traffic, you think, hang on a minute, this is dangerous. And your brain computes that fairly quickly, maybe, but you're still stopping and thinking, hang on, I need to look up and down the road here, make sure it's clear to cross. That's that feeling of danger or fear that we get. It's not maybe that threatening or difficult, but there is a threat of getting knocked over if we walk out in front of a bus, obviously. However, and for some people it happens quite a lot, if your anxiety becomes too strong or it's there all the time, it becomes what we call a long-term conditional disorder, and it starts to interfere with your normal day-to-day living. It starts to interfere with just getting up and going around your daily business. And that's the time when you need to think about getting some help and support. When it starts to, when you can't just cope and manage with it, but it's stopping you doing what you want to do. Now, obviously, with the easing of lockdown, we're seeing some real interesting challenges, and as I say, we're seeing a lot of people feeling quite anxious about it. So we did a survey ourselves about 6 weeks or so ago amongst our members and supporters to see how they felt about lockdown, and very clearly they fell into one of three camps. They either didn't care, they weren't bothered one way or the other. About a third of them couldn't wait. They were going to be the first ones knocking on the door at the pub on Monday morning. But the other third said that they were quite anxious about it. They felt quite worried about it, and they were not looking forward to it. So, how we respond to this change does have a real significant impact on our mental health. So it's really important that we think about that we take steps to plan for it, that we do things to help us to look after our mental well-being. So we start off with some self-care, some basics. Check in with yourself. I noticed on one of the videos earlier, you were all introduced yourself. You said your name and how you were feeling. You're doing that check-in. How are you today? Check in with yourself, not and with no self-judgment. Accept what it is. Don't be harsh or critical of yourself. If you're not feeling good, don't worry about it. It's okay, as it says here. It is okay not to be okay. So don't be overly harsh or critical on yourself, or beat yourself up if you're not feeling great one particular morning. The other thing to think about, some simple things to think about here, is ensure that you're eating well. There's lots of evidence to support the fact that our gut microbiome have a major impact on our brain and our behavior, especially in stress-related disorders such as anxiety. So we've done a huge amount of work in the last 5 or 6 years with leading academics in this field, people who do a lot of studies into the link between the gut and the brain. And they've proven, scientifically, that there is a direct link between what you put in your tummy has an impact on how your brain responds. So we've got a really good nutrition and anxiety booklet for more information about that. I'll put the link there, and I'll pop the link to that in the chat when I'm finished with the presentation, because you can download that booklet from our website free of charge at the moment. So I'll share that with you in a little while. So eating well is important. Exercise. Exercise is also, so some simple things about managing our well-being is eating well and exercise. Now, you know, we were all told during this whole lockdown period, even during the first lockdown, the government were telling us it's okay to go out for an hour a day to get your exercise. And there's a reason they said that. It's not just about your physical health, but it's also important for your mental well-being. So any form of exercise, you don't have to be training for a marathon, by the way. Don't think that we're all going to expect you to be entering the Commonwealth Games next year in Birmingham. But what we do want you to do is get some exercise. Go for a walk, maybe just have a little gentle bit of exercise around the garden. Anything at all. It might feel like a challenge, but it's a great way to relieve stress. So even if it's just to get a bit of fresh air. So I'm going to show you a short video as well, some other practical things to consider. That's why I wanted to make sure we had the sound on. And this is going to give you some other practical tips for dealing with anxiety. And then we'll look at a few more specific tips about managing expectations.
Anxiety is the body's natural response to danger. When our cave-dwelling selves got into trouble, our primitive brains would trigger an anxiety response to help us deal with a life-threatening situation. This is known as the fight, flight, or freeze response. Once we dealt with the danger, the anxious feeling would subside and we'd feel normal again. The problem is, our brains haven't changed an awful lot since then, and they can still perceive everyday stresses as life-threatening. When the responses aren't dealt with properly, they can build up over time and cause anxiety disorders. Here are 9 practical tips to help you start living with anxiety. Learn. The more you know about anxiety, the better. There are a ton of books, podcasts, and videos out there to get you started. Sleep. Establishing a good sleep routine and getting the right amount of sleep will help reduce anxiety. Dreaming helps the brain declutter itself of those unresolved anxiety responses. Exercise. Getting plenty of exercise reduces the amount of stress hormones in your body, which build up when your body goes into fight or flight mode. Don't smoke. People often smoke to calm their nerves, but cigarettes actually contain substances that can trigger anxiety and trick your body into fight or flight mode. Diet. Too much sugar can cause anxiety, as can coffee, tea, and alcohol. Eating a healthy, balanced diet helps reduce anxiety. Positive thinking. When you're having negative thoughts, challenge them. Repeat positive thoughts instead. Anxiety can't take hold when you're in a positive frame of mind. Visualize success. The primitive brain doesn't know the difference between imaginary threats and real ones. So instead of constantly worrying about failure, treat stressful scenarios as a challenge. Visualize yourself succeeding, and you might be pleasantly surprised. Relax. Try some guided meditation, mindfulness in household tasks, or just spend some time doing something you really enjoy. Give your brain a break from its cycle of negative thinking, even if it's just for a short time. Therapy. Seeking help from a professional therapist can help you form a game plan in dealing with anxiety, as well as offering a different perspective and alternative methods of treatment. Anxiety can often feel like an unwinnable fight, so it helps to have someone in your corner.
So there we saw some tips there in that video of some things you can think about, but the which I've included, of course, the 2 that I'd already mentioned about exercise and eating well. So it's important to try and do that and to help you. So we're looking now specifically about returning to normal, returning to these post-lockdown restrictions being lifted, going back out and returning to work, maybe returning to your normal social life, or just going down to the shops. You know, if completely return to normal is starting to feel a little bit overwhelming for you, then just try and do it in small steps. Build yourself up to it. Don't rush. Don't try and cram everything into one weekend. Gently build up and start to build up the amount of time that you spend outdoors with others. But importantly, tell those close to you, your friends and your family, and those people that support you, how you're feeling. You know, people that care for you will want you to be happy, even if that means waiting a little bit longer to wake up. To meet up. Don't be afraid to say, just maybe, so look, can I just meet up with one or two of you this weekend? Maybe we'll just sit in the garden, have a cup of tea, and an afternoon tea in the garden together. And then maybe next weekend invite a couple more people around, and then maybe the weekend after go to their garden for it. So ease yourself into it. Take small steps. Don't be afraid to have those conversations with those friends and family that are wanting you to return to normal. Think about some ways to express that. There's some tips here for you about using some of these phrases to help you set those boundaries with those people. Feel like things say, I'm sorry, I don't feel totally comfortable yet. Can we arrange it for when I'm feeling a bit better? Tell them, yeah, I'd love to see you, but I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the idea at the moment. Can we arrange just for me and you another time? It's been quite a difficult time for me. You might have really struggled through this lockdown. You say, I'm nervous about coming back to the office or coming back to wherever. I'm nervous about going to the cinema. I'm nervous about going shopping. Is there some flexibility in when we can do this? And particularly if it's work related, have that conversation with your employers. I mean, most of us, if you have a work related challenge, if you've been working from home anyway, you've proven that they can work flexibly. Maybe your challenge is around getting the bus or the train to work in the morning where it's busy and in the rush hour. Maybe the flexibility is you just go in at 10 in the morning instead of 9 when the public transport's not so busy, for example. So be flexible. Come back to work when I feel ready to come back to work, but a bit apprehensive about my role. Can you provide some support or maybe extra training to help me settle in again? For some people, they may have been furloughed and they haven't been to work for 12 months. And they're a bit apprehensive about actually going back into what they were doing. Hang on, I just need to refresh what I used to do. All sorts of these things will be making people anxious and worried. So last but not least, the sort of professional help sort of support. So there's lots of tips there about self-care, self-help, self-support, manage it for yourself, looking after your own well-being. But for some people that can be a little bit too much and you want some extra support and some professional help. And as I mentioned, talking therapies, that's the video we saw in the video. Talking therapies are some of the most effective tools for treating anxiety and help you to learn to manage and overcome it, learn strategies and tools to cope. One of the things that we've actually introduced lots of new services over the last 12 months. One of those is compassion focused therapy, which, as it says here, is a psychological therapy approach that was developed initially to help people with high shame and self-criticism. So again, if you're people who are feeling maybe dealing with worries about how you would be when you're socializing again or when it's safe to do so, if you feel guilty about meeting others, our compassion focused therapy might be the best for you. Other things that we've introduced is we have a calm club that we can offer now 9 times a week. You pay to become a member of the Calm Club. It's a small annual subscription, and we run 3 sessions a week on positive thinking, 3 sessions a week on stress management, and 3 sessions a week on managing anxiety. So, and they're hypnotherapy based relaxation sessions. And once you've taken out the subscription to Calm Club, you can attend those relaxation sessions. Each one is run 3 times a week. It's a total of 9 every week you could go to as often as you want for a whole year for the one-off annual subscription. We've also got online support groups, online therapist-led anxiety management courses, whole raft of new services there, that support services that you might find useful. And hopefully we can all now, there's some questions there that you might want to
ask. So thanks, Dave, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Is there any question? We've got 5 minutes before I want to go on to the next item. So is there any questions in the box, Annette, Bridget or Adele, or is there anything anybody wants to ask about any of the things that Dave's talking about?
Yeah, I'll put it in the box, Chewy, because there's not a lot of time, is there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good, Steve.
Chewy,
Yeah.
isn't it? Jean has made a comment in the chat box what well-being means for her, and I didn't know if she would be able to share what she's written there. Just tell us what she means, if that's okay, Jean.
What I mean is that for me as a disabled person, it takes me a long time to do certain things. And people are always saying, oh, why don't you do meditation? But that also means I have to find extra time to fit in my already restricted day to do that. And a few years ago, I remember reading something, somebody said that you can meditate any time of the day. It doesn't have to be like sitting down on the floor or on a chair. You can just, while you're washing your dishes, but that's what I used to do. When I was washing my dishes, I was thinking about other things and calming, it was calming for me. Yeah. But because it was different to what a lot of other people thought about things, because they are in the majority, they were trying to change me to do what they did, which always impacted on me. So when I read that, it was there, somebody else kind of thinks like me, and I just continue doing that. So it's like a lot of the things that I was doing, which was helping me, but a lot of, because the majority thinks one way, and because they don't have the disabilities or the restrictions, they assume that what I am doing isn't right. So I'm kind of going back to what I was doing in the past that was working for me.
I mean, my simple response to that, Jean, would be to say, you do whatever works for you. I mean, some of the tips and some of the tools I've just shared with you are a menu, are a selection of different things you could try. You don't have to do them all, or you could do them in a manner that suits you. I totally agree with you. Meditation per se, it may want to be done a particular way, but any kind of mindfulness, we saw in the video, said do some mindfulness approach can be done. You can apply mindfulness to any task that you're doing. So washing up could be a mindful activity if you're using that time to think about your thoughts, or to take away, to distract yourself from those thoughts and worries and feelings that you're having. I find I do a lot of cooking and baking. I find I get in the kitchen and I start preparing a meal or whatever. Any thoughts or worries that are racing around my head totally go out the window. Mainly I've got to focus on what I'm doing so I don't chop the end of my fingers off. But if you're focused on doing a task like that, whether it's washing up, whether it's cooking, whether it's working in the garden, that will help manage those thoughts and feelings that you might be having that's causing anxiety. So yeah, absolutely. Do whatever works for you. That's what I would say.
Washing up while singing and dancing at the same time works for me.
Well, we can't wait to see the video of that.
And Kate's put a very good question in the chat box. Can Anxiety UK support people with complex communication difficulties, or if not, can they signpost people to who can?
I mean, we can, and we do have we do support our therapists to do additional continual professional development in developing their own skills to help people with all sorts of complex difficulties. So what I would say is we do have, our system is a self-referral system, and we ask, do you have any special requirements or needs as part of our referral form? If you need help or support with any particular thing, if you let us know up front, we can then try and match you with a therapist who's got the skills and experience to support you. There's absolutely no reason why we couldn't do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking about that, Andrew also mentioned if you have any accessible information as well.
Sorry, I missed.
Andrea asked if you have any accessible information available, like easy reads or things like that.
We don't. I mean, I have got one member who often asks for me to send stuff into a large print for him because he's partially sighted. So if you got in touch to our helpline and let them know what you needed, we would look to try and do what we could to help you. Or if we don't have it, if we don't have the resources to help, we would try and find to signpost you to an organisation that would be able to, maybe somebody more local, or an NHS services locally might have more appropriate resources that meet your needs.
Owen has got a question. Owen?
Yeah, I was going to say that before today, I've not actually heard of you guys, which is really bad, considering the fact that I have a lot of support from like the doctors and staff and other agencies who have never mentioned you guys to me. Anxiety UK, I've not actually been recommended. You've not been recommended. I think that's poor if that's not being put out there enough. Also, the other question I've got is I saw a video last year, and it was a lady who was sitting on a bench during lockdown watching the sunset, and she actually got arrested by the police, and the officer turned around to her and said that watching the sunset, exercising her mind, wasn't exercise. Now I know there have been a lot of people saying that exercising your mind or going for a walk and mentally exercising your mind isn't exercise, but are you reaching out to like the police and saying it is a form of exercise so they are aware of that? Because if they are nicking people, especially during lockdown, for the wrong reasons, and they don't know that and they're not being trained that, I think that needs to be something they have to be aware of, because it's important. Because it's wrong for an officer to turn around who isn't trained in mental health in any form of capacity at all and say, you watching the sunset and exercising your mind because it helps your mind, because you're stuck inside working at the same four walls for nearly a year, isn't, or at the time a few months, isn't exercise. And I know that exercise, but if the police don't know that, they should know that.
Yeah, I mean, Owen, you make two really valid points. I mean, one, I'm delighted that Chewy asked us to come and join you today, and one of the reasons we say yes to invites to events like this is to help raise awareness and spread the word that we're out there to help people. And we are here to help people. Obviously, we are a charity. We rely on the goodwill of others to help us spread that word. And not all GPs know about us, and we try and educate as many as we can, as much as we can within the constraints that we're working in, financial and human resources permitting. But yeah, we're doing our best to spread the word as much as we can. In terms of police awareness and understanding, you're right. Again, there's a lot of ignorance in a lot of sectors of employment and organisations and society at large, which is why we still have so much stigma around mental health, and people worry about talking about their mental health because they worry about how they're going to be received and judged. And one of the reasons of that is people are not as educated as they need to be about mental health generally, and if we could improve that, we could make sure these policemen understand that.
I think a lot of people have the impression that depression and anxiety isn't a mental health disorder. It's not a disability. I've had arguments with people. They've turned around to me and said, "Well, depression isn't mental health." I go, "Yes, it is. Depression, anxiety, ADHD is all mental health."
I thought of it anxiety, and not a lot of people know it there, and I had started through lockdown about 1 minute we're allowed to go out, 1 minute we're not allowed to go out, but I had cope with lockdown. I cope really well with lockdown, and I went to London on Tuesday, which was a big achievement for me.
Brilliant. Well done, you. Thanks, Gabby. Andrea, final point before we move on to, and I'll just say quickly, Dave, all the links and stuff that Dave was showing, we'll put on the ACE website. Easy or David, we'll put this on in a couple of next week maybe, about what's said. So we're just Andrea.
Yeah, I was just going to ask for permission to share your video on our website. So
The one that I just played out through there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's on our YouTube channel, Andrea. You can find the link there, and yeah, that's. I'm happy for you to share that.
Dave, thank you very much for your time.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah, the next thing on our agenda. So this is a video, short 10-minute film that Zeb wrote some questions for, and we had technical difficulties on the day, so it's voiced by me. But yeah, so this is, as it says, it's the new director of Adult and Community Services, who Zeb actually interviewed way back in April. I don't know if you hear Zeb still, but you did some interviews for the new director of social care, didn't you, of Adult Community Services? Well, we did it all online, and it took us hours sifting through different people. So this is the lady you chose, and this is the interview you did with her last week. So yeah.
Zeb wanted to ask Suffolk County Council's new Director of Adult and Community Services some questions about herself, her role, and how she's going to help people. He came up with the questions and Chewy asked them on his behalf. Please can you tell me your name?
Hello, my name is Georgia Chimbani.
How are you today?
I'm doing really well, actually. I'm doing really well.
Please can you tell me about your job role?
I am the Director for Adult and Community Services for Suffolk County Council. I started with Suffolk County Council on the 1st of January this year, 2021. And my job really is I am responsible for all the staff, social workers, occupational therapists, who work in adult social care, so who support adults in Suffolk that need support from Suffolk County Council. So it may be adults with learning disabilities, it may be adults in hospital, it may be adults with mental health problems. It's my role to make sure that everybody gets the support they need in the way in which they want that support.
Have you learnt anything new over the last year?
I think I've learned how strong we all are as people and as individuals, and how able we are to change when we need to change very quickly. I think before COVID happened, if we'd talked about changing things that in terms of the way we worked or the way we did things, a lot of us probably wouldn't have wanted to do it and thought it was too hard. So one thing I've definitely learned is no matter who you are, you're a really, really strong person, and actually we all have the capacity to do amazing things when we're required to do. So things like wearing a mask all day or for long periods of time, working from home, using digital technology like this, I've learned incredible amounts.
What have you enjoyed about lockdown?
I think what I've enjoyed the most about lockdown is not spending ages in my car driving to and from work. But I've also enjoyed spending time with my family. So we've been able to cook a lot more meals instead of just having leftovers or beans and toast. So that has been really amazing.
What have you not enjoyed about lockdown?
Well, because we're cooking really well, we have lots of time to cook. I've put on a tremendous amount of weight. So that's the one thing I haven't enjoyed about lockdown.
How are you going to make sure that people with learning disabilities are listened to by Suffolk County Council?
Although I'm the director, I am a social worker at heart, and I still remember what it feels like to work as a social worker. So I think the biggest thing for me is always reminding everybody that I work with about why we do the work that we do. We do this because we actually enjoy working with people and supporting people to be independent. So the most important thing for me is to make sure that people with disabilities are at the center of everything that we do. And what sort of things, what does that mean? So that means things like co-production. So I don't want us adult social care to sit in our offices or sit at home or wherever we work from deciding things for people with disabilities. I want people with disabilities actually to tell us what they want us to do to support them. So that's all very much about listening, talking, keeping the lines of communication open, making sure that our documents are accessible. So, we talk in a language that everybody can understand. And actually in the times then when we don't get things right and people need to complain, which I hope isn't a lot, but when people do need to complain, making sure that actually we make things right and make sure that we learn from those mistakes that we make so that we don't keep making the same mistakes.
Have you worked alongside self-advocacy organisations in the past?
Absolutely. In fact, I started my career as a social worker. One of my first jobs was actually in the voluntary sector, working with women and children around improving their healthcare. It's a job I really enjoyed. And then when I came to the UK, when I worked in London, I did a lot of work with advocacy organisations that worked in the area of HIV and AIDS, drug and alcohol, learning disabilities. So for instance, MenCap did quite a lot of work with MenCap and Mind. Those are some of the organisations. So there's so many, but I'm a big advocate of actually working with voluntary organisations and self-advocacy organisations, because actually you hear directly from the people that are affected, the people that live those lives, and the people that we want to be able to support.
Why did you start your working journey in social work, and what made you choose it?
Well, it's an interesting thing that I never actually set out to be a social worker. So when I was in high school, I desperately wanted to be a lawyer. That's what I wanted to do. And for various reasons, I didn't go into law and actually fell into social work. And how I fell into social work is there was a group of 6 of us friends in high school, and we were all wondering what we were going to do with our lives when we finished high school. And one of my friends said, well, you know, my brother is just gone to a place called the School of Social Work, which is in Zimbabwe. And we all thought, what's that? And we had no idea, but we all got the information and we all thought, as a bit of a joke, well, why didn't we all apply? That sounds like fun. And we all applied, and we all got places at the School of Social Work. And it was the best thing ever, and I never regretted it.
Do you have any worries or concerns about what happens next?
I think we've done really well in the UK in terms of kind of vaccinations. We keep hearing about new types of COVID, new variants coming up. And I suppose my only worry is, what does that mean for us? Does that mean that our vaccinations will not give us the protection that we were expecting? I think we've done so well. I want to make sure that we keep people out of hospital. We continue to ease lockdowns so that we can all continue to see each other and enjoy our lives the way in which we want to be able to do. And also, I suppose, linked to that is the fact that I worry about if new variants come on board, that then mean lots of people unwell and going into hospital, further lockdown or more restrictions. It means that as social workers, we can't restart our face-to-face visits, which is something I'm really keen on us being able to do. It's not ideal having assessments via, Zoom or Teams or whatever. And I'd really like us, certainly as social workers, to be able to come out and start doing face-to-face visits and being able to see people, because I think there are a lot of people out there who are struggling, but we don't know are struggling because it's really difficult, because we can't see them, we haven't got access to them, or aren't able to talk to them in the way that we would like. So I think that's my biggest worry at the moment.
What do you think the main problems in the world are for people who use services from social care, and how can we fix the problems, and how long do you think it will take?
It's about just getting the right support, isn't it? I think so. The main problems for people really needing support is there's not enough money to be able to support people in the way in which we would like. There's not enough staff to be able to see people really quickly. And really, I think all of that comes down, as far as I'm concerned, to the support that we need from government. People who use services are telling us what they want, and that they're very happy to work with, councils like Suffolk County Councils and the government to make things better. And we also need some legislation, laws that support us to be able to do a bit more.
What would you change in social care to make it better for people?
I think if I had a magic wand, which I absolutely don't have, but if I had a magic wand and some fairy dust, I'd certainly want more money to support people in a personalized way. And when I say a personalized way, it's not putting people into boxes and saying, well, you can only have this, so you either take that or leave that. It's about what would you like, and then we work around you to make sure that you have the support. And it's also about making sure that the people who support the people who require services, you know, our families, carers, you know, giving them support as well, you know, paid carers, making sure that we give them recognition and more money, so that it becomes a job that people really want to do and aspire to do, rather than a job that people use as a stopgap between things. So money. I think money would go a long way. Thank you very much, Sebastian, and thank you for speaking to me. It's been amazing, and hopefully we'll be able to meet everyone in Suffolk People First at one of your meetings face to face, hopefully soon. Lovely to meet you all.
Thank you very much for speaking with me today.
Yes, thank you. That was Georgia was going to come today, but she couldn't. So we did the video. So we had some technical problems on the day. So yeah, so that's Georgia. She said she'd come to any other meetings that we have. So that was just an introduction to her. Hope you enjoyed it. That's one idea. And then one final thing from Abby, who I think can't have her camera on. She's unstable. Are you there, Abby?
Hello. Yeah, so on the 4th of June, this is for ladies only, we are doing a presentation for, well, a questionnaire really, for the government to talk about women's health. So if anyone would like to come, if you could email me, I'm going to put my email in the chat, or email Chewy if you don't have time to grab my email, and let me know, and then I can send you out links and things. And we'll also be putting an Eventbrite on later today, so you can join through that as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so thanks. I mean, we've come almost right up on time. There is a couple of things we haven't got. We have got a Talk Tech 3, which we're going to be doing on the 23rd of July. So after this meeting, we'll start planning our Talk Tech 3 conference. But we'll have all that information. We'll get that out to people. And the next Suffolk People First, which will be online, is the 17th of September. But we will get all this information out to people. Yeah, so that's, if we just bring everybody back, David. Yeah. And yeah, just say thanks very much, everybody, for your time, and you go and grab some lunch. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Chewy. And anything else I haven't had a chance to say on here today, which I haven't, I can discuss in the parks, can't I?
You can.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure meeting you all, seeing you all.
Yeah.
Catch up soon. You're from Lowestoft Hub, yeah?
Yeah. We will still have the Mondays group, people. So it's not, you know, so it's still, yeah. So just to sort of, just in case people are thinking, oh no, it's other people. But no, we still have our Monday group, so you can discuss them there.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, bye, Ian.
See you later,
Andrew. Bye.
I recreate.
See y'all.
Everyone.
See ya. Bye, Hilda.